Thanks, Kevin.
Take a leg.
Thanks. Well, welcome everybody. I first thought that Kevin was a good friend till he put me right behind the best speaker in the world and didn't just cut me to 45 minutes, but to 20 minutes. So makes my life real easy. Just kidding. I really appreciate you, Kevin. So as Kevin said, my name is Gerhard Komenda. I'm the founder and CEO of Tree-Mendous Aerial Adventures, which is a very unusual company. We build stuff in the air, in trees, on poles, on skyscrapers. I will not go into details because then I would definitely go over time. I gladly talk with each one who is interested on what we do later, tomorrow, whenever. For now, I would love to take you on a short journey that began for me many, many years ago. It started with a profound realization that changed my perspective on how the world works and how I function in it. And if you detect an accent, that's because there is one. I was born and raised in Vienna, Austria. And I also had the kind of childhood you don't want to have. I grew up in the darkest part of town. I dropped out of school with 14. I left the country with 17 and started to travel the world. And I had no other goal than to survive, be free, learn. My choice also was made easier because the Austrian army wanted me and I didn't want the army. So going back would have meant doing time. I'd rather travel the world. I had a lot of dreams and hopes, just like every other young person at that time. And then at one point, I just asked myself, so why don't I do all those things, right? I wanted to become a pilot. I wanted to become a ski instructor. I wanted to work as a ship boy on a sailboat in the circus in Norway, etc. And I was luckily too oblivious and too naive to find a single reason why not to do it. And so I started ticking it off my list, and I'm still working on it. Despite the fact I'm not a little boy anymore, except if you ask my wife, she will disagree. But at one point, destiny led me to meet an old scientist, a German forester. And he was a very, very old-fashioned forester. Not what we know today as a forester that works for the logging industry and increases the growth of trees and the board footage by basically growing them too close to each other, etc. He was more like a steward of the forest, building sustainable forests, old growth forests. So that was so inspiring for me that I decided I'd become a forester as well. And I became a biodynamic forester, which is like a tree hugger gone organic. And so besides that, when I started working in that area and I realized that working with my one-legged friends was real fun, it brought me always back to my childhood and the way I grew up. And I was asking myself, so I would actually love to understand more about my two-legged friends, working with my one-legged ones, now working with two-legged ones. And so I became a social therapist. And I worked with youth at risk, addicts, inmates, special needs population, etc. And it was a great fit. And then very quickly I realized there's actually a third point that I did not even think about, and that is sustainable business. It really, really, really connects. I learned that trees provide us with countless tools to understand and grow, both as a person and as a leader, to shine a light on the fact that all is connected, that all is interlinked. You could say that all is one. Hermes Trismegistus, the messengers of the gods, as he was also called, once said, as above, so below, as within, so without, as in the universe, so in the soul. And for me, this core interpretation of the concept is that if you study and thoroughly penetrate a given subject rooted in nature, all other questions you might have about life will be answered at the same time. The cosmos is alive, and everything in it is alive. And the point of this existence is at its most basic level to develop a universal consciousness. And that is a bold statement, I'm aware of it, but I'll get to that in a minute. And what I say about trees, nature, ecosystems, etc., the universe can actually be interchanged with all the terms that you're used to use in the business realm. For example, individuals, teams, systems, structure, growth, adaptation, and so on. We all have the intuition that trees are individualities. Moreover, we perceive them also as social beings that communicate with each other, to share food and drink, nurse each other when in need, and have deep family bonds, and even create large communities and settlements that we then call forests. When all those individuals start to form this unique environment, we often think of it as just that, a bunch of trees that stand close to each other, and that's a forest. What we don't think about is that, just like in any other community setting, they keep their individuality, but an overarching consciousness and like a group soul is formed. So a new being comes into existence. And in a way, we're naming that in businesses as well. When we say we incorporate the company, incorporare, Latin, to bring into, or to unite into one body, right? So you bring the business really in the world, make it its own thing. And in a forest, this process is further enhanced through mycorrhiza, which is a kind of a fungi. They help the root systems to grow together, and they look awfully like our neural network. So if you take pictures of our brain, of our neural network, and the mycorrhiza, they look identical. They're really hard to tell apart. In the business, the same process is happening by what we call networking, team building. We're forming and growing systems that allow for those new functions and connections. And any department in the company is meant to play a part in this. The main role should be to provide an underlying ecosystem, identifying the need of others and how to function at their best. The forest does not have a ruler, a king, or a president, or a CEO. Yet there is an obvious hierarchy. But this natural hierarchy is a horizontal one. We're used to vertical hierarchies. So the most suitable individuals in the forest take a leading role in this ecosystem, but not to be the ruler, not to gain more power, to take advantage, but to actually further the success of all. And I believe that as a sustainable business leader, we have to apply the same horizontal hierarchy. Trees go as far as warning other trees of pathogens and pests, and they change their own chemistry to fortify their immune and defense system ahead of an attack. So there's real communications. A healthy forest, as well as a healthy company, will start creating a lot of needed systems to provide a sustainable life cycle. Take the observation of a well-functioning forest or ecosystem and use them like a magnifying glass or a filter to evaluate if your enterprise is socially sustainable and healthy. The need for real cooperation, true teamwork, communal care, respect, and the mentioned horizontal hierarchy instead of a vertical power-centered one becomes very obvious. Forests are a functioning role model of truly sustainable businesses that last longer, are healthier, produce more benefits, and create happiness instead of depression. As the famous spiritual teacher Yoda from a galaxy far, far away once said, "May the force be with you." I think George Lucas got that quote wrong. I think he said, "May the forest be with you." But we can discuss it later. We all have heard about the power of positive thinking, that we create our own reality, that our consciousness is the most important tool, etc. The term consciousness, again, comes from the Latin, and it means, literally translated, together we know. So it takes all of us. It's not just I know, you know. Together we know. All cultures have tried to understand the universe, who we are, what consciousness really is, where does the soul reside, etc. The different answers depend on location, belief, religion, and the amount and kind of dogma. Nevertheless, we do find common ground all around the globe, despite the different systems. We all associate certain things in a similar way. We're feeling with the heart, we're thinking with the head, and it all ties together with the spirit and the soul. Over time, we have used different approaches to get those points across and to try to understand. And the ancient knowledge was mostly conveyed via oral lore, hence the great storytellers. Those stories were full of images and normally used deities with specific characteristics and images to describe certain attributes and qualities. Then later came a Newtonian or classical scientific approach, eventually using very materialistic analysis to pick apart cells, chemical process, etc., and ignoring pretty much everything else. With the birth of quantum science, we evolved into a different level again. This discipline looks beyond the first two approaches. It goes deeper than the other methods. It dwells in the subatomic level. On this level, we find strange events that Albert Einstein perceived as spooky action. You'll get in a minute why. His contemporary and colleague, David Bohm, postulated that the universe consists of an underlying interconnected reality, and he called that the implicate order. And what we observe in our everyday experience is the explicit order. So the classic question, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Has for many people become a thought-provoking quantum question. And the common sense answer would be, well, yes, of course it makes noise. I mean, if it falls, it crashes, makes sound. However, if you delve deeply into the quantum mechanics especially, the answer is an emphatic no. If you don't have an observer, there is actually no sound. And we have proven that. So that leads to the proof also of the state of a superposition. That means where particles can be in multiple states and multiple places simultaneously at the same time, or in no space. And hence, Einstein called it spooky action, because that's very hard to wrap our minds around, because we learned from Newton that two particles can't be in the same place at the same time. Quantum physics contradicts that. That is, until they're measured or observed. So as soon as you put consciousness onto it, then that superposition, that you also can call a wave function, collapses into either one or the other, or in both. So it really takes the observer to create this reality. David Bohm, who Einstein called his spiritual son, the Dalai Lama actually gave him a very honorific title of his science guru, came to the realization that at the basement level of the universe is nothing but a field of infinite potentiality. Let me repeat that, because I think those are some of the most profound words ever uttered. At the basement level of the universe is nothing but a field of infinite potentiality. And in ancient mythology, the concept of the beginning, so the basement level of the universe, has been described in virtually all cultures. And you can go through all the scriptures, Christian, Hebrew, Upanishads, you name it, everywhere, even in the Australian Dreamtime. And they all kind of have something in common. They call it, in the beginning there was the word, or the tone, or the sound, or you could also call it the vibration, in quantum speak, the wave. Today we commonly refer to the moment of creation as the Big Bang. Again, a sound, a tone, a word, a vibration, a wave emerging and ending the prior singularity. Pause for a moment to consider what that means for your existence and your business. Conscious observation will dictate what effect and impact your company has in the world. And conversely, what it is feeding back to its individual parts and to its stakeholders. Let's look at trees as our guide again. Looking at a forest, we know in our hearts that we mustn't cut them down, or not cut them all down. We feel the intrinsic value of them and even an emotional connection. And in our culture today, we predominantly value things through monetary worth. We actually should appreciate things because they have intrinsic value and not use value or instrumental value, or we doom ourselves, as we're in the process of doing. Our whole culture must shift towards a conscious feeling. One of the reasons we're destroying the planet is because we have lost the feeling and consciousness that Earth is alive. We just don't feel it anymore. We most often just look at that there's coal or oil or gold underneath us. And then we go, let's dig it out and let's cash in into it. And that means we have not taught for a long time the intrinsic value of all those minerals and the complexity of Earth. When you walk through a forest and hug a tree, you're exposed to the deepest level of energy in the universe. In this particular instance, it manifests as a massive electromagnetic field that happens just so to be emitting on the same frequency, the same wavelength as your brain works, your heart works, your bodily functions work. So tree hugging actually really works if you look at quantum physics. I believe we have forgotten what the actual word education means. And that's why we're not teaching the intrinsic value anymore. The word education, again, Latin, educare, and that means to bring forth, to bring out. It does not say or mean to stuff in, to put in. So a teacher's job is actually to help the pupil to bring knowledge that is already there out, instead of stuffing it in. And if you just carefully and peacefully listen and feel the sound and vibration of nature, all will become obvious. Apply the same attitude and reverence as you do when walking through the woods when you go through your company. If you carefully listen and observe, everything important will become pretty obvious pretty quickly. Fill it with strong individuals that focus on the common good of all its parts, and it will prosper. If you find individuals that are not that strong, remember the horizontal hierarchy, help them to get stronger. And this is not just a lofty poetic approach. Countless rational, sober scientists have presented and proven the concept of an undivided wholeness, suggesting that everything we see and experience is fundamentally interconnected. It all is a part of a greater, indivisible whole. It concludes with certainty that this approach is not just a new age fantasy. Walk this path, and it will alter you and our consciousness at large. It will change your company, making our society a better one, and forge a circle of positive impact companies. And now I'll go and hug a tree.
Gerhard, thank you so much. How about that, everybody? Gerhard Komenda. Absolutely crushed, brother. Thank you very much.
Thanks.